Okay, we are live here with the after school review. Everyone say hi. Oh, I can tell you're so excited to be here. Okay, so we're going to be doing trig functions. Now, the main thing to remember for trig functions is where is the theta. They will always tell you where theta is. You will never have to guess where theta is. So in this case, I'm going to make this, sugar shoots, that's too big. I'm going to make this be my theta. Okay, we're not yet on the question. I'm just refreshing your memory. We're going to start off on your front page in a second. Whatever the theta is, you always have to also pay attention to what is the right angle. I'll wait till that table decides to look this way. We're not looking at other people. So the hypotenuse is always going to be the longest side. It's the longest side because it's opposite the right angle. Then what I think about is when I think of angle, I think of adjacent. And it's because I have the A for the angle here, and then this would make this side here the adjacent side. So I've got angle adjacent. The adjacent side always touches the angle. A adjacent, A angle. The opposite side is always the side that's opposite. So for example, many of you are sitting opposite someone on the table. So if we look over here at these ladies, I'm sorry you guys got to sit in front. The two ladies in the green shirt and the hoodie, they're sitting adjacent. They're on the same side of this table. The lady back here with her back toward me, she's opposite them. That's how we do adjacent, opposite, hypotenuse. Really, when you do these questions, please label every single side. It's going to make your life so much easier. The same goes here. Here's my right angle. Opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. And I intentionally use the word opposite because I want you to think across. If this is my theta here, here's my hypotenuse, this is my adjacent, because theta is the angle in adjacent, and this would make this my opposite side. So if I move on, you should see some questions like this. On your formula sheet, you should see sine, cosine, and tangent. Everyone find it on your formula sheet? It's in the top right section of your formula sheet. You should see sine, cosine, and tangent. So what we're going to do is, part of the reason I didn't staple it is I wanted you to be able to go back and forth. So let's look at question number 1. For question number 1, my theta is going to be 41 degrees. So here's my 41 degrees. This is my theta. Always label. So if here's my right angle, that makes this side my hypotenuse. And it makes, there's my angle. So the 20 is touching the angle. So it's my adjacent. Here's my opposite. So if I look and say, okay, well, what information do I have? Well, I have my A angle, sugar shoots. I thought it was going to be a highlighter. There it is. Here I've got my A angle. And even though I don't know what X is, it's still located where the hypotenuse is. So because I have A and H, that gives me cosine. And I'm going to use cosine for this problem. So because I know my cosine value, I'm going to write down cosine 41 equals adjacent, which in this case is 20, divided by x, which is my hypotenuse. Now you would cross multiply. Now, some of you know the trick. Because x is in the denominator, all I'm really doing is switching the places, but I'm going to show you the long way. The long way says x times cosine 41 equals 20. Then you're going to divide both sides by whatever cosine 41 is, and then you're going to get your solution. Okay, so some of you have calculators, others of you have cell phones, so you can go ahead and work on that piece. And I'm going to pass around the sign-in sheet. Ma'am, can you guys get this for me? What'd you guys get? You should get 26.5. Or like start with you and then yes. Okay, so the sign-in sheet's coming around. So you should get 26.5. So if you do on your calculator, what do you get when you get cosine 41? I only brought 25, they're gone. So if you do cosine 25 on the calculator, you should get 0.9. So if you do cosine 25 on a calculator, it should get you 0.9. So if you do 20 divided by 0.9, that's going to give you the, ooh. Oh, never mind. I typed in 40 instead of 41. So you should do 20 divided by cosine 41 and get 26.5. Okay, let's look at this next question. Wait, how? Yep, so you're going to be doing 20 divided by cosine 41. That's what you're typing in the calculator. And when you type that in, you should get 26.5. For this next problem, this is question mark is our theta, but we don't know how many degree measures theta is. I'm out. I have 25 calculators out and I need all 25 back when you leave, so don't take them with you. Okay, so this is my theta. Here's my right angle. So opposite my right angle is my hypotenuse. Opposite my theta is my opposite side. So I've got opposite and hypotenuse. Ooh, I messed this up when I did it. Hold on, Michelle. So because I have opposite hypotenuse, I'm going to be using sine. So I'm going to type in, well, I don't know my angle, so this means I have to do sine inverse. Anytime you don't know your angle measure, you're going to use the inverse function. Who knows how to use the inverse function? What do I have to hit first? Second. So I'm still going to do opposite hypotenuse. So I'm still going to do 11 over 17, but I'm going to have to hit the second button first. So everyone, if you have a calculator or on your cell phone, hit the second button first, then hit sine, and then type in the fraction and close the parentheses. So you're hitting second, sine, put in the fraction, and then you need to hit equals. Let me see if I can get a calculator up here. 11 over 17. Yeah.
So how do I know when do I use cosine?
So you use it based on the formula sheet. So if it says adjacent hypotenuse, then you know you're using cosine. If it says opposite hypotenuse, you're using sine. I'll go over that. Thank you for letting me know. I need to clarify that. So you don't have the formula sheet for me to show you. So bring the formula sheet back. I'll show you one more time. Okay, so here we go. If we look here, I have to do the inverse function. So I don't know how to do it on Google's calculator. Let me see if I can get another one. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to hit the second button. Then I'm going to have to hit sine inverse. And then I'm going to type in my 11, what was it, divided by 17? And then I close that parentheses, and you should get 40.32. Is that what y'all got? Ma'am. Excellent. Yes, that's why. So because we don't know what our theta is, that's why we have to go with it that way. Okay, so, and I just did it. So let's look at it one more time. There was a question about how do I know when to use sine, cosine, and tangent? So you're going to use sine. The formula for sine is opposite hypotenuse. So anytime you're given the opposite and the hypotenuse, you know you will be using sine. Anytime you are given adjacent a hypotenuse, that's when you use cosine, and then opposite and adjacent is tan. So here, because this is my theta, I know my opposite and my hypotenuse. The only one of these three trig identities that has opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So that's why I use my sine. But I'm using the inverse because I don't have the angle measure. I need the angle measure. So that's why I hit the second button and then I type in the sign to do the problem. Let's look at another one. Let's look at number 3 and 4. Let me X some of these extra stuff out so I don't go crazy. So if we look at number 3 and 4, here we have 18 degrees as our theta. We know it's our theta because it has the degree measure. Don't get it confused with it being outside. Also, usually side measurements are outside the triangle. So here's my theta. Then it tells me, well, if this is my theta, here's my right angle, this is my hypotenuse, this is my adjacent, this is my opposite. So what am I going to use if I have opposite and adjacent? Which trig identity is opposite and adjacent? Tan. That's right. So I have opposite adjacent, so I'm going to use tan. So then I'm going to write down, okay, tan. They give me the degree measure, so this time I don't have to use the second button. My opposite is x. My adjacent is 13. So if you remember from middle school, you probably learned how to cross multiply. Some of you guys heard it as the butterfly method. So when we do that, we get x equals 13 times tan 18. So up here, I'm going to type in, okay, clear my calculator, 13 times tan 18. 4.22 is it. Excellent job. So then you should have 4.22 for your value. Now let's look at this next one. This one's kind of interesting. There's no, yeah, what do you need? Okay. This one, they don't give you any angles, but they give you two sides. What do we use when we have two sides of a right triangle and we need the third side? Yes, excellent, the Pythagorean Theorem. So that's just going to be a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Guys, you only will use trig if there is an angle involved. I'll wait till you guys are ready. Do you need more time? I know, I definitely go fast at these sessions because it's not intended to teach you the first time. The YouTube videos after school that you can watch at home go more slower to teach you if you don't remember all of it. Okay, so here, because there's no angle and I only have sides, I know I'm going to use Pythagorean Theorem. So I'm going to plug that information in. I'm just going to give you the answer and not show it. When you're done, you should get 11.3 as your answer. Okay? So right now, please, you should have a new question I'm showing you on the board. I want to know, looking at the formula sheet, you should have it on your phone. It should come up. I would like you to please click on your cell phone where the trig identities are located. So if you're back on your cell phone, in theory, this is supposed to allow you to click on your phone to where the trig identities are located on the formula sheet. Okay, so if you have a phone, or we can keep going. I don't want, you want to just keep going? Yep. Okay, so let's talk about arc length area of a sector. That's the next thing on the formula sheet. Everyone look at your formula sheet, find it. Everyone look at your formula sheet, find arc length area of a sector. In this case, they tell us a couple things. They tell us, okay, you have a 16-inch diameter pizza. So if our diameter is 16, what does that help us with? What is our radius going to be? Why is our radius 8? Half the diameter is the radius. Then it tells us that the pizza is cut into 8 congruent slices. How do I find how many degrees of one slice is? Go ahead. Divide what by what? How many degrees are in a whole pizza? 360. How many slices are on the pizza? 16 inches is the diameter. There's 8 pizzas. So that means each piece is 45 degrees. Now we literally can do the problems. Like you're using the formulas to do the problems. All you need to do is figure out how do I find the pieces, and once you have the pieces, you can do the math. So this wants to know both the arc length, which in essence is the crust of the pizza, and the area. So what we have is we have 2 pi r theta divided by 360. That's it. So I'm going to type in 2 times pi times my radius, you guys told me was 8, not 16, times 45. And then after I hit equals, I divide all of that by 360. So let's look here. I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to type in 2 times pi times the radius, which was 8, times the angle measure, which is 45. Hit equals. If you don't hit equals, you might get this wrong. So don't start dividing by 360 till you've hit equal sign. Then divide by 360. Ooh, sugar shoots. And then you should get your answer, which is 6.2. Okay? It's literally typing it into the formula. So now we know that it's going to be, this is 6.28. Our area of a sector, we're going to follow a similar pattern. For area of, yes. You can use pi or you can use 3.14. Either one will give you a close enough answer on for the multiple choice. Oh, this is pi, I'm sorry. I multiplied by pi. So this next one, area of a sector, is pi r squared theta, again divided by 360. So all I'm going to do is I'll go back to my calculator. I'm going to type in pi times my radius is 8. I'm not going to confuse my calculator, so I'm just going to do 8 times 8 times my angle measure, 45. Hit the equal sign, then divided by 360. Hit the equal sign again. You should get 25.13. I don't know why I hit equal twice. That was doing number 5. But number 5 had 2 parts. One asked for the arc length, one asked for the area. Okay, do we still have the sign-in sheet going around? Where's the sign-in sheet? Who's got my sign-in notebook? Okay, keep passing it, please, so everyone can sign in. Sign fast. Do not leave unless you have signed in. Yes. Yes. So after you plug this information in, you should get, like we got, 25.13. Okay, I see people all of a sudden thinking because I said pass the sign-in sheet, you could start talking. Let's fix that behavior. All right, moving on. Yes. Excellent. The question is, I thought the formula for a circle is area times pi r squared. I got you in 1 sec. I got you next. This isn't asking for the area of a circle. This is saying if you eat 1 piece of pizza, how much are you eating? That's why we're multiplying by theta and dividing by 360 because we just want a portion of the entire pizza. Ma'am. The arc length is the crust of the pizza. Arc length is this one. Area of a sector is that one. Okay, next question. This again is just focusing on area of a sector. Who needs to do area of a sector one more time? Okay, I'm going to move on because not as many hands went up. I want to cover as much information as I can. You can watch the other videos, but I want to show you number 7. Everyone go to 7, please. All right, we'll wait till everyone's ready. This one's a little bit different. It's almost a DOK2 because instead of finding the arc length, you have to work backwards. So you're still going to use the arc length formula. That arc length formula is, as we saw that arc length equals 2 pi r theta divided by 360. But now they tell you that given this arc length, 5.24, what is the radius? So we've got 5.24 times 2 pi. We don't know the radius. So I'm going to put r for radius. Here's our angle measure, 80 degrees. And then all of that is divided by 360. The first thing that I recommend doing is let's just get rid of the fraction. We get rid of the fraction by multiplying everything by 360. So using your calculator, you can use your cell phone calculator. I'm going to type in 360 times 5.24. I got 1,886.4. And all of that equals 2 pi. Watch what I'm doing. I'm moving the 80 and then r. The reason why I moved the 80 is because all of these are numbers. So I can divide both sides by 2 pi 80 to get r by itself. So I'm going to cross this out because 2 pi 80, 2 divided by 2 is 1. Pi divided by pi is 1. And 80 divided by 80 is 1. So then in my calculator, I'm going to type in 1886.4, divide that by 2 equals, divided by pi equals, and then divide it by 80 equals, and I'm left with 3.75 for my radius. So just because you know its arc length, make sure you know what information you should be using. You won't always be using what's in there. Okay, do we have questions? I hear mumbles. We're good? Question, are you good? All right, so next, let's move on. We're going to skip the questions. Let's look at volume. Most people said they were fine with volume, so I'm not going to show you all of them. There's a couple questions I want to show you. Let's go to number 9. Number 9 references a hemisphere. Please make sure you're still passing. Thank you. Who's got the sign-in sheet? Is that still going around? The sign-in notebook? Okay, great. This says hemisphere. A hemisphere is half of a sphere. So what you're going to do when they have hemisphere is follow the formula for a regular sphere, but then just divide it by 2. Just like when you have a diameter and you have to divide it by 2, that's what we're doing here. So the formula for a sphere is 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed. But I need a hemisphere, so after I get this answer, then I'm going to divide that by 2. So for example, I've got 4/3 times pi. My radius is 2 cubed. So then I've got here 4/3 times pi. 2 cubed is 8. And then you can just do 32 divided by 3. And I'm doing 32 divided by 3 because 4 times 8 is 32. So I'm going to do 32 divided by 3 equals, times pi equals, and that gives me 33.51. But I guarantee you, if they give you a question like this, they're going to have that be one of the answer choices. But it will be wrong because that 33.51 only represents the full sphere. They want you to do half of it. I think on your test, your question was like, you want to share an orange with your volleyball friend. So then you're going to take that, divide it by 2, and that's going to be the answer. What's the question?
Oh, never mind.
So you should have 16.75 as your final answer. So far, so good? All right, we're not going to do all of them. Let's move to the next one. This one we are going to do also because it's working backwards. Here it has the volume of the sphere. it tells you the volume of the sphere is this value. So then it wants us to find what is the radius. If you don't remember, there's two ways that you can deal with it when you have like 4/3. You can either multiply by 3/4, because that'll cancel things out. I do it the longer way. First, I multiply everything by 3, and then I divide. So here, I'm going to multiply this side by 3 and this side by 3. That's going to cross out my denominator. So when I do that, I'm going to be left with 3053.63 times 3. I'm going to be left with 9,160.89, and that's going to equal 4 pi r cubed. Remember, we're still trying to get the radius. So even though we're still trying to get the radius, we need to get the 4 pi out, ma'am. You could divide the whole thing by 4/3. The issue is the calculator you're going to get on the EOC won't let you do that. Oh, go ahead. If you have nicer calculators, yes, you can do it that way. So then when you do this, I'm going to type in 9160 divided by 4 pi, and that leaves me with 719.9 something. Now, there is a way for your EOC calculators to do the cube root, but it's challenging. So I'm going to show you the trick that I did today. All I started doing is I picked like, okay, well, what's 6 times 6 times 6? Like 6 cubed? That would give you 216. So I know I'm not going to go to 5 times 5 times 5 because 216 is less than 719. Then maybe I'll try 8 times 8 times 8 and see what I get there. Because all we're trying to do is we're trying to get, ooh, that's wrong. That is 512, so I know I need to go higher. So now I'll try 9 times 9 times 9, and that's going to give me the 720. So if you don't have the cube root function on your EOC calculators, you can just start multiplying numbers and see what you get to have it work out. Okay, I do want to jump to probability. We have 13 minutes left. Actually, I'm going to do directed line segment and probability. So, nope, we're leaving at 3:20, so we're not done yet. Let's look at directed line segment because it's one of the easier ones in the sense of you don't have to know math, you just have to know how to plug things in. You don't have to remember anything. For directed line segment, you will always get 2 points. This is one of the only times that the order of the points matter. Whatever the first letter is that they give you, that's going to be in essence your x1 and your y1. Whatever the second point is that they give you, that's going to be your x2, y2. Then they're going to give you a ratio. Almost always, whatever this ratio is, it tells you right here, the ratio is A to B. So that means that this 2 is A and this 1 is my B. Now there's a lot of ways to do it. I'm going to show you what I find easiest. I find first, let's only look at the X. When we look at the X, this is the formula that I taught my students to use. If your teachers use delta math, the delta math uses the bottom formula. I'm not very good at it, so I always use the top formula. The top formula says bx1 plus ax2 divided by b plus a. Now, you don't have to remember this formula. It's literally on the formula sheet. You just have to remember to use it when you see partition the segment or directed line segment. You guys have quieted down. Thank you. Now, all you're going to do is just plug the numbers in. Well, what's my b? This is how I do it. Well, my b is 1, so I put a 1 on top. What's my x1? Here's x1. My x1 is -3, so I put a -3 here. Plus, my a is 2, and my x2 is 6. -3 times 1 is -3. 2 times 6 is 12. And when I add them up, I'm left with 9 for my numerator. So instead of math where we normally like go across the page, I find it easier to go up and go down to get my problem. So then it says, well, what's b plus a? B is 1, a is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3. So now I know my x coordinate is 3. Now we're going to go back to the y. So for the y, it's the same formula, but instead of x1 and x2, we're using y1 and y2. We're still going to plug the information in. So I've got b is 1, but my y1 is negative 2. So I'm going to plug in negative 2 here. My a is 2, and my y2 is 1. So negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. 2 times 1 is 2. When I add that up, I'm left with 0. We already know 1 plus 2 is 3. Anytime you have 0 divided by a number, you're always going to get 0. So this is going to give me 0. And this was us finding the y. For directed line segment, your answer is always going to be a coordinate. So my answer to this question is 3, 0. And basically, all directed line segment means if I plotted the point negative 3, negative 2, and the point 6, 1, I want to know where can I have a point that's going to be 2 sides on this side and 1 part on this side. That's what the directed line segment does. Okay, I'm going to move on because I want everyone to see probability because they're also free questions. So let's look at probability. Anytime you have given, you are talking about the formula sheet. In this case, how this says A given B, here it is down here on the formula sheet. It's on the back of your paper. The formula says if you take A intersection B, which means both things happening at once, and you divide it by only one thing happening, that tells you what the given is. So for example, the story I used in my classroom was, what's the probability I'm going to the Cincinnati Zoo over break? Well, if I'm not going to Cincinnati, the probability of me going to the Cincinnati Zoo is 0 because I'm not going to Cincinnati. But if I tell you I'm going to the zoo with my niece who loves animals, the probability of me going increases exponentially because I'm going to Cincinnati. So how this works, Ethan and AK, is you are going to, that whole group is going to quiet down. All you do is you take the probability of both A and B divided by the probability of 1. So because it says the probability of A and B happening at the same time is 0.5, that's my numerator. The probability of B happening by itself, that's my denominator. That's literally all you do. Then you just plug in the calculator, 0.45 divided by 0.9, and you get 0.5. So here's what's the probability that it's Thursday after school and I buy you pizza? That's 0.68. What's the probability that I just buy you pizza? That's 0.8. That's what we're trying to figure out. So again, all we're doing is 0.68 divided by 0.8, and that's going to give you the answer. Can someone do that? Because I don't have my notes. I got 0.85. 24, it's the same way. Last thing I'm going to show you guys, 7 minutes left. All right, we're going to do this probably in about 3 minutes, and then the last 4 minutes, I want you to finish that thing so I can see that you actually learned something. We still got that sheet going around to sign in? Where's the sign in notebook? Who has the sign in notebook? Hello? Who has it? Okay, keep passing it, please. All right, this is also on the formula sheet. Everyone on the paper I gave you, circle down here where it says multiplication rule for independent events. This is so easy. What this formula says is if you multiply, it's the bottom of the paper. I literally copied and pasted it. Oh, this picture's not on there? No, I mean on the back, on the actual formula sheet. On the actual formula sheet, I want you to circle it. Okay, so what the formula says is, if you multiply 0.25 times 0.4, so everyone, if we do 0.25 times 0.4, that gives us 0.1. If this number and this number are the same, then it's independent, which means one thing does not impact the other thing. So if I do 0.25 times 0.5, I get 0.125. Does 0.125 equal 0.75? No, so it's dependent. 0.4 times 0.5 is going to give you 0.2. Does 0.2 equal 0.2? Yes, so it's independent. Okay, let me go over a couple of things. We're going to take a stop for a second.